All right, you ready to go?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're live.
let's do this.
Okie doke. Grand Rising, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. My name is Chase Steele Gray. I am your host for today on Health and Wellness Wednesdays. And we speak about a lot of different topics here on the Huddle. Today, we're going to do something a little more personal and we're going to get into it in the deepest way possible. But I hope you pull something away from it. And thank you for being here. Let's get it going. Okay. Well, let's get right into it then. Let's get into the topic of today. And you know what? I want to preface what I'm about to say with this. You know, many people speak about emotional things, right? Whether you're angry or you're sad or you're disturbed or you're disappointed, but not too many people speak about crying because I believe that it could be looked at by some people as a weakness, right? Oh, you're crying? Or the famous line, um, what was that movie? A League of Their Own, where the lady looked at the other lady and said, "Are you crying? There's no crying in baseball." You remember that? So um, I say this all with much care and thought put into it. And I have to say, I will admit openly, because we're all family here, that in the last 2.5 years, literally in the last 2.5 years alone, I have cried more than the whole rest of my life up until that point. Now, you might be saying, wow, that's quite a statement. It is. I just want to be transparent with you. And when we speak about crying, the first word that comes to mind for me is releasing, right? What are we releasing from the body? And my goodness, if you knew how within ourselves that crying uh, activates our parasympathetic, my goodness, you would I think you would want to cry more because you would realize that you have a particular release. You have like a valve that you can just go and let everything out, right? What I feel is that for the most part, the average man or woman holds in more than they are releasing. And what happens, like every other thing that we hold in, things come out in a very, very strong and aggressive fashion when we hold back the tears, right? So I put together, I've been, I know this might sound strange, but I've been studying tears and emotional release in the last year and a half, like my life depends on it, right? And guess what? My life does depend on it, right? So I brought my book along with me because I put some things down here that I want to tell you. And first and foremost, we've spoken times before, excuse me, about chakras, right? I bring the chakras up first because many people around me that I love and that care for me so much are always speaking about the chakras. Chase, make sure your chakras are open. Chase, make sure your chakras are clear, right? And I wrote down some things because I wanted you to kind of connect it to something else. You know, people speak about chakras where they are in the body, but I don't always think people know about the chakras that relate to what might be happening with the emotion, right? So we start with the earth chakra, right? Base of the spine. The earth chakra is usually connected to survival, but it's blocked by fear. Think about that, right? Connected to survival, but blocked by fear. So when we're upset or we're angry or we're fearful of something, we can block the base of our spine. Think about that, right? Then water, which in general, water deals with pleasure. Water is moving around our body at all times. But guess what? Water or the water movement in our body can be blocked by guilt, right? Stick with me. and fire, which that is what I am, fire, Aries, born on March 28th. Whew, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, right? Um, this is connected to willpower, and it makes a lot of sense for me because I have a lot of willpower. I'm always going after things. I'm always seeking out the next thing, right? But when you think about it, if you have a lot of willpower and then something comes along where you don't achieve it, that can be blocked by shame. The shame of putting something out there, not achieving it, not going after it hard enough, and then missing the mark, right? The other one is the heart. We all know that that's deals with love. But when we're not in a loving perspective or a loving area, we can follow that up with grief, right? Also, the sound, which for me, sound is very important, being a musician. And this is interesting because the sound chakra deals many times with um, are we telling ourselves the truth? What is our truth? And it can be blocked by lies that we tell ourselves are true, but you're completely not. Right? How do we speak to ourselves each and every day? Is this going to be a great day? Oh, I stubbed my toe. This is the kind of day I'm going to have, so on and so forth. The light, which is the center of the forehead, that deals with insightful things, things that come up and we're incited by them. We're thinking of something specific, but that can be blocked by the illusion of something else happening that's completely not really real, right? An illusion that you're going to fail, an illusion that you're going to fall, an illusion that you're going to run out of money, whatever the case may be, right? And then the last one is thought. So talk about cosmic energy, talk about the crown of the head, and then we basically say that we're blocked by attachments, earthly attachments to things, people, monetary things, so on and so forth, even maybe even certain outcomes in our lives. So I said all of that first because many of these things produce what we like to say tears or crying, right? So again, and I want to be as transparent as I can with you today. The tears that I've experienced over the last 2.5 years, strictly from fear, feeling inadequacy with certain things that I've done or not done to the level that I want to do it to them. Let's put it that way, right? So when you talk about tears, we're talking about emotional tears or physical tears. Emotional meaning anything that pushed you to the edge, like I said before, fear, anger, doubt, depression, all of those things, right? That emotional thing produces the tears, right? When I was looking at all this information and I was thinking like, these are some really interesting statistics. I found some things out that I think are just amazing. And I always, well, I shouldn't say always, but many times I had forgotten that it is mostly that human beings are the only species that produce tears from emotions. When I heard that the first time, I didn't believe it because I've studied things that deal with animals, and you see like a dog or an elephant or different people who have gone through something traumatic, and they show them like tearing up, right? I always feel like we need more and more and more and more research about animals because sometimes I think we sell them short. But by and large, we are the species that cries basically from emotions. Something happens, boop, boop, it can go right to our eyes immediately. Maybe with animals, it takes a little bit more time. And by the way, with babies, which I didn't know this, in the first, man, was it a week or 2 weeks? It is said that babies don't actually cry. They're they're building up the fluids in their eyes when they're first born, and only after a certain amount of time do they cry with tears. In this primal stage, they're crying for attention, and they want you to know that they're there and they need something or whatever the case may be. And then later, the tear ducts develop, and then later on they start to cry. Incidentally, if you did not know this, again, a crazy fact, Our eyes are the only parts of our body that I know that actually stay the same size throughout our entire life. Amazing. Fascinating. So I wrote this down. This is very interesting. There's a guy named Michael Trimble. He's a behavioral neurologist, and he was about to go on the BBC for an interview, and and one of his assistants said, "Well, what do you think about people who don't cry? If you know someone who you've never seen cry, never seen express that kind of emotion," and she asked him that question, and he said, "You know what? I don't know about that. We concentrate more on the wet eyes than the dry eyes." But at the same time, he had an email that he put together. I'm not sure if it's still in action, but it's called no crying 10 at Gmail. And he asked the people who were listening uh, to contact him if they don't cry, or if they've hasn't cried in a while, or if they've never cried. And he said within an hour, there were hundreds of emails. I thought that was really, really fascinating. So, you know, a lot of people bring up Darwin and all the things that Darwin thought and put into play. And I have a note here that says, um, Darwin declared that emotional tears are purposeless, right? Because human tears are the only ones that are triggered by feelings. And then it was said from around 1500 BC that people speculated that they definitely always came from the heart, always, right? This quote I put in here, and I wanted to make sure to say this. It says, the Old Testament describes tears as the byproduct of when the heart material weakens and turns into water. Wow. I was like, wow. Now that's intense. That's really, really intense. And uh
Chase, could you repeat that again, please, if you don't mind?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know what? Is my volume up? You came in really. Oh, maybe your volume's down. Um, the Old Testament describes tears as the byproduct of when the heart material weakens and turns into water. Fascinating, really, really fascinating. And then the other one, I wrote these both down because I thought they were fascinating. In the 1600s, it was thought that emotions, especially um, related to love and the heart, generated generated water vapor in order to cool itself down. The vapor would rise to the head, condense near the eyes, and escape as tears. Whew. I mean, just thinking of that visual travel pattern going through our body to me is absolutely amazing, right? Lastly, there's a Danish scientist named Niels Stensen, and he discovered the lacrimal gland was, well, I guess the origin of the tears, right? And that said, he said, basically looked at it as an evolutionary benefit, right? That comes from the eye, right? We always think of tears or for the most part, crying as emotional things. But remember, and I think I wrote this down too. Let me make sure. Yes. Okay. So this I didn't know that there were three types of tears, right? The basal tears, which keep the eyes moist, the reflective tears that uh, um, the tears that project the eyes from irritants like dust and stuff like that. And then, of course, emotional tears, which sad, frustration, emotions that are following that, right? And in 1 year, the average human being releases 15 to 30 gallons of tears. Think about that. So when I spoke about the first one, the basal tears, these tears we don't feel all the time. They're little drops that kind of come out over our eyes to give us a protective um, block for things that might be happening. And when our eyes get drier, it signals inside of our body to produce more, just to have it there. It's like having a little glass of water next to your table at all times in case you need to drink it. Fascinating, really, really fascinating. So I brought this topic today, and again, for full transparency, I've been studying this for at least a year and a half. I have notes in my book that far exceed what we have in this call. But what I want to say, which is I find so important for everyone to hear, is that the tears or the crying actually can have um, a great effect on the watcher as much as the person who's producing them. So it is said that some of the benefits that happen while we're crying actually spill out to everyone else. Let me explain what I mean by that. So I don't know if you've ever heard the expression, but the expression that when you do something nice for someone, three people benefit: the person doing the good deed, the person receiving the good deed, and the third person that's watching from the side. That I thought was amazing. Now, bring that back to the tears. It is also said that the same place in the brain that is activated when someone is crying is also the same place that's activated in the person who's watching the person who's crying. So the two people get to be involved in this kind of emotional pas de deux, if you will, and they say, okay, you're crying. I mean, it's happened to me, so I can tell you it's true. If you ever see someone crying, like you just watch them, it happens to me all the time. I see people crying on the subway. I've seen people crying walking down the street. There's some sort of empathetic trigger that can go off. Not in everyone, right? Everyone's built differently, but there's some sort of empathetic trigger that goes off in me where I want to stop and talk to that person. 80% of the time, I don't do it. But the 20% of the time that I did do it, I could feel the person who was receiving my empathy calm down even more, right? So these are one of the benefits that I'm talking about. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, because I want to make sure I tell you this the right way, um, when I was talking to you about how it affects the other people or another person the same way, I wrote something about that is right. So it's what I said. The same neuronal areas of the brain are activated by seeing someone emotionally aroused. They call it as being emotionally aroused yourself, setting off empathy and compassion. So this was an interesting thing that I read. Because we get into an emotional state, especially in relationships, when we cry, it triggers something in the other person. And normally, if a person is coming from a guilty place, that's their way of asking for forgiveness. Like, you've hit my really deep core. I'm crying now. Please let me in. Don't block me out. Fascinating. Really, really fascinating. Um, I I will continue to study this because there's some things that I found out that I really didn't know, and it really made a difference to me to find out like certain things that were going on. And the last thing I want to say is, as it relates to what I found out about it, is that it is said that the emotional tears that we have are different from, let's say, the tears you would get from, let's say, chopping onions. I did not know that. It has a different some different components. So I wrote these down. Tears have enzymes, lipids, metabolites, and electrolytes. But emotional tears have a higher content of protein. What? I'm never thinking about tears and protein, but we're talking about these fluids that are moving through our magnificent bodies, and that's what happens. Isn't that amazing? So I would love to hear from someone who's connected to this vibe about crying, but also I would just want to say, because really my main reason for coming on today is, if you are holding in your tears, please let them out. The body will thank you so much. Trust me, I feel like I'm the happiest guy in the room wherever I go. But when I tell you that I was holding some things back for years that came out in these last 2 years, I'm telling you, it's so important. You can cry alone in the shower, at the park, sitting on a table, sitting on a blanket. You can cry in the dark, but let it out. Whatever you're feeling, let it out. I feel 20 pounds lighter in my chest because I'm doing that. And by the way, I'm not perfect at this. is still happening. I cried this morning before the huddle, right? The releasing, the releasing. Anyone want to chime in at all? Ah, no chiming in. You must be crying.
Excuse me, I know I'm off video today, but it's interesting that you would be talking about that now because, bro, let me tell you something. Over the last couple of days, I've had some kids that have cried,
Mhm.
and I can tend to be kind of emotional anyway.
Right.
But over the last couple of days, where I'm confronting some issues
Mhm.
head on that I know that I have, and I'll be pretty honest, open and honest with you. I've got some of that hoarder in me.
Mm.
And I'm getting rid of some stuff because we're remodeling the basement and everything.
Right.
And I've got to really make myself get rid of stuff that I've just been holding on to.
Yes, sir.
And it's
Yes, sir.
like, I want to hold this is sentimental to me. This is so and so. But and I still go and I look at some things, but I've thrown some things away already that I'm proud of myself to a degree already just because I let those things go.
Right.
You know, and I still got a lot more to let go. So thank you so much. I appreciate you saying
I mean, my good people, I don't know how else to say this, but we are the only people that can release the valve. And by the way, there are people who release the valve in us, right? I had a conversation with a good friend of mine I've known since high school, started crying with him on the phone. He said, Chase, what's wrong? I was like, I don't know. You said something that triggered me and da 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 da. He was like, wow, bro, I hope you're good. I said, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Once you start to release it, and this is my own personal experience, it's trying to get out all the time, all the time, all the time. I had a memory about something that happened in my relationship years ago because I was in my phone and something came up, an image, waterworks out of nowhere. It was like it was ready. Okay, ready? Go. It just came out right in that moment. I didn't know I was going to scroll to that picture. And to me, again, from my personal opinion and my deep diving in this topic and other emotional areas, this is the byproduct of holding stuff in. When you're holding stuff in, it's gonna come out. It's gonna come out sometime. It's not gonna be on your schedule usually. That's the problem, or that's the blessing. However you want to look at that. So I say cry more. And again, you can do it in private. This doesn't have to be a spectacle in the middle of your block. It can be anywhere you want to do it. The body will thank you and you will feel lighter. And the people around you, I believe, will feel lighter around you because we're all walking around with some extra stuff. Let's just be real, right? There's some extra stuff just floating around, just like Stan said. Boy, that storage space stuff or the stuff you're throwing away, I have that experience too. I have that experience too. Why is this tugging on me like a 6-year-old child walking through the mall? Just, you know what I mean? And when we connect with it, it releases. I've cried on the huddle based on something that Sorrell said a while ago, based on something that oh, Sorrell, you have your hand up. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I don't want to keep rambling on.
Yes, thank you, Chase. Great topic. You said cry more,
Right.
uh, and it sounded as if one could generate crying on demand. And
Hmm.
I'm wondering if that's what you meant. Do you mean cry more, or do you mean don't hold it back when something triggers you and you feel like crying?
Definitely the second one. Don't hold it back when you feel like crying. Because like I said, in my personal opinion, crying is not on your schedule. To me, crying is like Mother Nature. Things are going to happen, and when they happen, you put your coat on, you put your umbrella up, or you put your bathing suit on. When it happens, you can't really say when it's going to happen. And I say cry more. I don't mean force it. I just mean when it happens, it's going to happen, and that's what's been happening for me. I've been like, oh shoot, oh, okay, we'll just let it out.
Yeah, you know what though? I'm interested, and I'd love it if you would dig into that in a later episode. There is the random. Like you said, crying is not on my schedule, but there are things I know I can do, like go to a certain song, go to a
Right.
certain picture, and inevitably I cry, right?
Right.
Maybe that could be a practice. I don't know. To generate crying on demand.
I like that. And I'm gonna say really quick, and then we're gonna get to Ingrid. You know I'm a singer. I sing in senior homes all the time. I cried yesterday. You know what I was singing? I was singing A Case of You by Joni Mitchell. I challenge you guys to listen to that. A Case of You by Joni Mitchell, sung by Diana Krall. Words, sentiments, deep emotions that get in there and click, trigger you out of nowhere. I was in front of 40 people, and at a certain point in the song, I was like, oh shoot, it's about to happen. And I held it back. Like it came out a little bit and then I yanked it back. And in that situation, I was performing and I just wanted to be fluid. So I cried afterwards. I did. It was great. Ingrid, let's round it out. Oh, she walked away. Are you there? Okay.
Okay, hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Grand Rising to all. Love the topic. Yes, I kind of looked into this topic a few years ago and discovered the three different types of tears with
Yeah.
the different chemical buildup and all of that, and it was very intriguing to me. I just came off of a clubhouse room that was talking about the yin and yang and the female and male energies, right? And I had brought up there, as far as men are concerned, sometimes you were taught not to cry.
Yes.
You're a boy, stop crying so much. So I'm wondering something
Absolutely.
that I hear men talk about the crying thing and now starting to cry. Is that because of something you were probably taught from younger that boys don't cry, stop crying? Are you a little girl? You know, I've heard that in my family before, that being told to young kings coming up. In regards to what Sorrel asks, in regards that can we generate crying? Yes, we can. Actresses
We can.
and actors do it all the time. When I was in the
Right.
academy in corrections, and they had to spray the OC, the mace, directly into my eyes to part of the training, we were told that tears help to soothe the burning in addition to
Definitely.
milk. So what I did after that to soothe the burning was think about my
Right.
father, who had just passed away like 3 or 4 months before I entered the academy. And I started
Right.
thinking about him and our relationship and or just him not being here anymore. And I was boo-hooing like somebody just beat me down to the ground. So I
Right.
generated those tears because our thoughts are our reality, right? So if we think of a sad situation or a happy one, we could generate those different types of tears. And me,
Right.
I'm a
Right.
crybaby. I cry. I watch movies. I cry. I remember
Oh,
when President Obama became president, and my son looked at me. He's like, "You crying?" Yes, I was crying. And when you cry with someone, it also builds some type of connection, and it's a different flow. And like I'm at work now, and I remember one time it was an actress. This was like a month or two ago. Famous actress, you all know her. She came in here crying. And immediately I was like, "Are you okay?" And I ran out, gave her a hug, and then I just started crying with her. And something happened. Something happened in that moment with her, with us. So crying is a good thing. It releases emotions, it invokes emotions. Um, I love the topic. Thanks for having it.
well, that was weird.
Thank you, Ingrid. Go
That was
ahead, Chase.
that was really weird. Okay. I was actually on my computer and something happened, just broke down all of a sudden. I think the power must have gone out, but that was really weird. But I heard pretty much everything that you said um, before that, and you know, it's really great. I'm totally in touch with what you're saying, totally. And to add to what you said, so we can wrap up. No, I was not taught not to cry as a young boy. I had very vibrant parents. I don't remember crying for anything else but doing something stupid that I shouldn't have done, or being afraid that my mother was going to whip my behind. That's what I remember crying for. It wasn't until my younger, my young adult times where things started to affect me, and I started to become really intimate with tears and what they can do. So, just to answer that, did I miss anyone? I'm so sorry. If anyone has a quick comment, I apologize for that. What just happened? All right, it's a big one. This is a big one, and I appreciate everybody listening. I have more to say about this, more that I feel could help other people as well as myself. So I am going to do a part 2 on this one because, oh my goodness, wow, it's really really big, and I'm being affected by some things that I'm going through, and it's just cleansing, just coming out. So I invite you to do the same thing. Thank you so much for joining us today, and as always, we leave with our tenets. First and foremost, please love harder than you did yesterday, than you did last week. Make today a solid maximum love day, right? Laugh out loud. If you don't want to laugh anyway. That's what I say, right? Move the body so that your body's fluid and you can push through all these things that are happening, because let's face it, it's a tough time right now in life. And also, give of yourself, give to other people, give things that you, as my dad would say, give away the thing that you love. I learned that at a very young age. Hey, Dad, that's a great shirt. I love that shirt. Here you go, son. Take it. It's just a shirt. I'll get another one. Give of yourself. Give. Sleep a little bit more. My goodness, I hardly slept last night, but that's a whole nother daily huddle. Eat mostly plant-based because your body will thank you. Your body will be more fluid, and you'll be able to get through the day a little better than you did before. Believe it or not, test it out on your own. I'm telling you. Always, please check yourself before you wreck yourself. It's a very, very, very important thing. You are worthy of the highest thoughts. So please take them in and push them out to the world. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you all. It's always fun being with you guys. I always leave a little bit more emotional than I came. So have a spectacular one, and I will speak with you all singularly or collectively soon. Have a great one.